Welcome back to the First, the Last podcast from the First, the Last, the Nerdum. We've survived slashers, we've traveled through post-apocalyptic wastelands, uncovered cinematic originals, and wandered through every corner of the nerd world. But this month, we're setting our sights on the stars, the future, and the impossible, with a brand new theme we're calling Sci-Fi Bliss. This month, it isn't about guilty pleasures or overlooked gems or cult classics. It's about celebrating the science fiction films that completely captivate us, the movies that challenge our imagination, push the boundaries of storytelling, and remind us why we fell in love with the genre in the first place. And what better way to begin than with one of the most ambitious sci-fi films of the modern era, Tenet. Written and directed by Christopher Nolan, Tenet isn't content to simply tell a story. It asks you to experience one from a completely different perspective. Espionage, quantum mechanics, inverted entropy, and time itself become the playground for a globe-spanning thriller that demands your full attention. It's the kind of movie that leaves you with just as many questions after the credits as you had halfway through the film. Did you understand everything? Probably not. Did Chris Nolan expect you to? Also, probably not. But that's part of the fun. Tenet is a film that rewards repeat viewings, endless discussions, and maybe a whiteboard or two, or a whole room full of them. We'll be diving into the film's mind-bending concepts, its spectacular action sequences, Ludwig Göransson's pulse-pounding score, and whether Tenet deserves to be mentioned alongside the greatest science fiction films ever made, or if it's simply Christopher Nolan at his most wonderfully complicated just because he could. So synchronize your watches, don't think about time, feel it, and remember, what has happened has happened. This is First Last Podcast, and Sci-Fi Bliss begins with Tenet. Podcast last first. Okay, it doesn't work like that. All right. So anyway, all right. So let me pull up my main screen here, and then we will get off to the races here. Just as soon as I I share our screen. Apparently, it's not letting me share a screen for some. Oh, because I got to stop that up. There we go. That's why.
Sharing's caring.
Yeah. Don't mind me. I was just hired yesterday. I just learned how to read and write. So no. All joking aside, this is our main thing here. We're gonna pay the bills here real quick. You can find us. I'm ML. Tom, won't you say hi?
Yep. Well, hello. Yep, my name's right there.
Yeah. This is
branding.
FirstLastNerdum.com, where you'll find us, as well as always home base on YouTube, where you can find our latest offerings. And we're very, very happy to say, and this really tickles me and Tom every time we see it. Well, we've shot up and we've been up and down the ladder in the 400s for a while now, but we're ever so slightly peaking over 451. So thank you so much to those who decided to stick around and stay and see what we're doing. And I'll hand it off to Tom because I know you got a thing or two to say about our home base, our YouTube channel.
Yes. I do the shorts as well. I do, if you're into comic books, I do a little recommendation. Try to do it once a week. If there's not anything worth recommending, I don't do one, or if I get lazy, I might skip a week. But yeah, last week we did The Greatest American Hero, believe it or not. I'm also traipsing the social media landscape, fighting those wars on Reddit. And tried to promote on subreddits where they let me in their convoluted rules and regulations on whether or not I meet those requirements or whatever. But yeah, if you're coming in over from Reddit, hello. But I'm more consistently on X. I try to promote our stuff there as well. So if you want to know what our latest video is, you can check it out there. See if you want to partake in it and click on it. We'd appreciate and love to have you. But Mike, I'll toss it back to you.
Yeah, I am. You can find me on the social medias on YouTube as well at Sofa King Jewish, and of course at First Last Nerd on YouTube. I'm working on doing something with my ex because I'm not happy. But
So,
anyway,
Mike, tell us about this Tenet movie.
yes, yes.
Well, we're going to be covering today. Give us the rundown on it. I know you have a unique experience with watching it for the first time.
I do. I think you shared there are some movies and directors and some things that just resonate with you. And I don't know about you. I know this for a fact about you too. Just knowing whatever, but I know that there are once upon a time, every so often there's a director or film or something like that we see or that we really like, and we remember where we saw it and when. And there's some other things that go into that. Maybe it's not just a movie, maybe it's other things too. But every
Yeah.
time I would go out to have to go for annual training or training, some kind of remote training or something like that for the military, I would find myself in spots and invariably I would be able to go see. At the time, it just is what it is, just the timing and things. Most of those films that I tend to go out like that are Chris Nolan films. Inception was one. I remember seeing it. I actually saw it down there in Arkansas, close to you in North Little Rock. I can't remember the theater, but I do.
I saw Inception in St. Louis.
Yeah. So that I have a long history of that, and kind of being on the road and seeing something really cool and special, and it kind of becomes its own thing. But that was strange enough, and I didn't plan this. This just kind of happens, but I did. This was everybody knows when this movie came out, it kind of bombed. It bombed, and it wasn't just this movie; it was every movie that was in the theater.
COVID.
Yeah, it just didn't matter. So there's
no
that.
one was going to the theaters except you.
Yeah. And this was about September of 2020, and I was stir crazy, and I had to get out, and I wanted to get on a plane, and I did, and I flew out, and I did my own little solo thing that I had done in like a really long time. And when I decided to go out to Arizona, I love that state, love that place. And Tom's cracking open the
Boomer juice.
You boomer juice? Yeah. I've got my little buddy here, my little teeny tiny old man beer, because I can't handle more than I'm just kidding. I just like a little bit. But anyway, going back to this, I remember distinctly. This is September, and it was out, and I was like, well, I want to go see it, so I did.
And the movie theater, Christopher Nolan was pretty adamant he wanted it out in theaters and not on any streaming service originally, right?
And
the only way you could see it was in the theater.
That's right, and I'm glad he did. I'm glad he stuck to his guns, and I'm glad that he did that, regardless of whatever you think or feel about Tenet or the era that it came out in. So that's my kind of thing. And I remember the theater there's a few people in there, but it was very lonely. It was very deserted. I saw it late at night. It was just a very otherworldly experience, just going to see one of my favorite directors of all time and being able to see, something I love. I love Interstellar. I love it when he does science fiction. I love it when he does these.
And this movie kind of has kind of a dreamlike quality to it, so that probably added a bit to the experience as well.
All of it added. I mean, it was just a weird time, and strange enough, I'm not going to go into the whole thing about COVID, but I will a little bit to kind of set the table for this. I don't know where you were or whatever, but I have massive history.
I was in my house.
Yeah, I'm just saying here, right. Well, I was in my house, but for this one, it was also, I think it came out in a time, and I think it made it extra hard to deal with, because the strange thing is that when everything came out, whether it was streaming or whatever during that period, during COVID, when the world kind of shut down for 2 weeks and it didn't open up for a couple years, the canceling of spring break, so to speak, for 2 years. If you have kiddos and you were that, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It was February and then March, and then everything ice for the next 2 years. It's funny because, like, for a movie that took its time to tell you about time, this came out in a place where we couldn't wait to go forward in time, so where we couldn't wait to get through this and get over it, and we didn't quite know what was going on. So it came out at a very unsure time where we were very unsure of ourselves. And this movie, to a certain degree, when you watch it, it's very frustrating for a first-time viewer, especially unless you're a Chris Nolan fan, unless you're a science fiction fan, unless you're something other than normal, than just a few inches above normal to like where you can take some kind of thing. This movie is incredibly frustrating to watch because when you take it like that,
very dense as well as
it's very dense. It's not easy. It's not gentle viewing. The first time viewer that watches this and have no connective tissue with any of this stuff or any concepts or whatever, it is very frustrating. Like it from their perspective, you can kind of take it as like, what the hell does this movie want to be? Does it want to be a time thing? Does it want to be Memento? Does it want to be Inception? Does it want to be, does it want to be 007? Does it want to be, what does it want to be? Where's the thing? So, and to their credit, to those people's, to their perspective, the movie kind of hands them everything they need to beat it up with, meaning that you don't even have John David Washington doesn't even have a main name. This is protagonist. You have some of the characters here, but it's not that kind of a story. And I can't wait to get into this to tell what kind of a story is, what the hell this thing is. But I'll pause there because I know I've been waxing poetic a little bit on my background with it, but and you kind of alluded a little bit on your background, but more importantly, I know that we both share a love of Chris Nolan and science fiction, and we just want to take your perspective on this from an original, because this movie came out 5 years ago, and I think it's absolutely aged just fine. I think it's perfectly fine and adequate for where it is and what it's doing. But it's a very rare time, like where you can kind of see like where literally every movie in the box office for like years, 18 months was just flat, wasn't happening. So yeah, but putting that aside, I would love to throw it over to you and let you wax poetic a little bit and see what you thought or feel about this and others, and is it where do you land?
Where do I land? Yeah, it's the way I saw it was the handy dandy 4K release of the movie, which is pretty decent. It's got like a separate disc of a documentary, an hour and 15-minute documentary on Tenet. So if you no commentary track, but you do get the documentary, and you get interviews with all the cool people in it, and they let you know how a lot of it was made. With I, it's I know the box office wasn't amazing because of COVID, but I'm kind of curious about physical media sales. I mean, I'm sure that because when Oppenheimer came out, there was big news that sold out everywhere on physical media because it's a Christopher Nolan movie, and everybody wants to own a piece of it. So, but yeah, I would be kind of curious to see how many of those were sold for Tenet. But yeah, I saw it on the small screen. You're probably one of the rare individuals that got to see it on the big screen. I'm sure it benefits from that. I also one of the things that's kind of frustrating with me with Christopher Nolan is that he often except for this latest movie, Odyssey, where he films the whole thing in IMAX, he does like all the action scenes, at least on the Tenet, is done with the IMAX, and I don't know, I get kind of ticked off about aspect ratios keep switching and changing. I'm not getting the benefit of I guess seeing the screen kind of open up on a large screen. It's just kind of a weird bug that you keep seeing, the black borders appearing and disappearing throughout the movie. I don't know, that just kind of bugs me, but that may be just on a personal level.
Yeah, no, I get it. This is the one of the things that well, for the commentary. Well, here's a good read on the physical media. What's the commentary? So some of the extras on physical media are wildly. Some are, I mean, absolute peak golden path, and it will absolutely extend and enhance your enjoyment of everything around it. And then there's kind of like where it's it's like like I can't remember what you had talked about it. Like there was like one of the commentary things that was going on was they pulled them in and they were late or something, and then they walk in and they're like actually started to talk about a completely other movie. And now I can't remember that one, but in any case, how was the commentary? How was the extras on that? Was it, or did you even partake, or did you want to partake? That's another thing too that you want. I mean, I know you're.
Well, like I said, there's no audio commentary. There's
an
hour and 15-minute documentary on the making
That's
of,
a shame.
which they have extended. It's extended interviews with Christopher Nolan, kind of breaking down how, and the whole production team. They talk to the editor, they talk to the visual effects guy, the production designer, the composer, which isn't Hans Zimmer. He wanted Hans Zimmer, but Hans Zimmer was doing a little movie called Dune at that time, so he couldn't do it. So he got Ludwig, I forget his last name, but yeah, he kind of fills Zimmer's shoes quite well with the big bombastic score that Christopher Nolan's known for. Yeah, I do enjoy Christopher Nolan. He does have much like Snyder has his Snyder Bros. Nolan definitely has his Nolan Bros.
Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah, for sure.
Which I think the Nolan Bros are probably a little less unruly as the Snyder Bros are, but online anyway.
Yeah, I think they're not quite as tight. Of course, and it might rub people the wrong way. I mean, if you compare Zack Snyder to Chris Nolan, I mean the two are on two different pedestals. It doesn't mean one is better than the other. It means that one has a claim and accords that the other one doesn't have yet.
Yeah, and so
they're in two different. I'm not saying one is better than the other, but Chris Nolan versus Zack Snyder, it's not even a contest. Come on, dude. Like, you talk about Citizen Kane versus Snow White. It's like one serious and one is not.
Right, exactly. And Nolan has a built-in audience. He could do whatever. There's a lot of commentators, online commentators that was screaming that Odyssey was too woke and that it wouldn't do any numbers, and the Nolan Bros proved them wrong.
But done brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a built-in audience for Nolan movies. Same way there's built-in audience for James Cameron movies and Snyder movies. You kind of know the special sauce that goes into a Nolan movie, so everybody wants to go see it. So I think obviously if it had came out during normal times, I think Tenet would have done quite well. But it's one of those movies that unfortunately kind of came and went because of what was going on. The stuff of real world kind of overshadowed the movie, so that when you brought up Tenet as a movie to talk about, I was like, oh yeah, there's that movie. So, I guess we probably buried the lead. We're calling this month Sci-Fi Bliss because it's pretty general. It's sci-fi movies that we love. So, and this is the one that you're bringing to the table. So I guess we kind of danced around the party a long time, but what is Tenet about? I know it's you could probably sum it up in a sentence or two, but it doesn't cover the whole thing. So, but give us the dime store rundown of it.
So this is one of those movies like to where if you read the description and then you go watch it, you're getting two very different things because it's not as flat as it makes itself to be. I'll just put that way. So I'll give a top level thing. What the hell is this thing? A nameless CIA agent, our protagonist, John David Washington. He's a CIA operative and he's recruited into the secret organization that is fighting a future war against the change that the one group of people wants to do, which is technology that can reverse an object's flow through time. So it can reverse entropy. In other words, so it can reverse that. But the only way to stop the end of the world is to attack it from both directions at once. So something happens in the future. They have this means of being able to solve their problem, but at the potential expense of destroying our world. So how the hell does that work? Well, that's kind of the gist of it, which is you're seeing this or you're seeing John David Washington, the protagonist, the CIA agent, the Tenet agent, this organization called Tenet, is coming together, and they're
which
you're on an active mission.
intentionally a palindrome
Yeah.
built in
Yep.
because it's
Yep.
both forwards and backwards. Yep.
Yep. And why that is significant is because like you're seeing the mission happen. You're also seeing the birth of so and so's career, and you're also seeing the end of so and so's career, and you're also seeing the interplay of like you're only seeing about 5 layers, and there's probably about 50 layers that are off screen that are implied that you catch the most important parts to. And unfortunately, it is just not that kind of a movie to like where it is easy on the viewer, and it tells you pay attention here because this is actually going up over here. And then on top of that, you also have the complexity of like just how you mentioned Chris Nolan, when he filmed it in IMAX, when he filmed it in that special, there were a few key scenes in the movie that he filmed at the same time where they were doing backwards and forwards. The thing, the I guess the gimmick of the film, which is this you have one team moving forward in time like normal, and then you have the inverted, which is they move back in time, but it's pinned on a couple key time. It's not like whenever you want. It's not like you hop in a machine. I mean, you do hop in a machine, but these machines are turnstiles, is what they call them. And you enter on one side, and then you kind of when you come back through, you're going in the opposite direction. So it's a very good device to kind of, although it is confusing, and it will frustrate the shit out of you the first time you watch it. It does, like when you do watch it a second time, I think that's where it kind of comes into focus, and people can kind of see, oh, okay, I see. I can kind of see what they're trying to do. It's still incredibly confusing. And I think that's why, but going back to how well it did, and we all kind of joked of like, if a movie was released during COVID, it was it didn't register. And that's not necessarily, I mean, that's true, but it's also not true. So when it was released to the box office, this was made for 205 million, I believe. And it did gross like 300 plus million or whatever. That's not saying much, but they let's just say that there's not going to be a Tenet 2 or Tenet 3 or a prequel to Tenet, or I mean, who knows? We'll never know. But by the numbers and by typical Hollywood, this one didn't do what Hollywood wanted it to do, and it was a shame too because it could have kicked off a completely different version of James Bond.
We could have been enjoying a Tenet sitcom.
Yeah, maybe. It's probably good that we don't have a sitcom, but you know.
Now this movie, it kept reminding me of different things. Like, I kept getting, and I did appreciate and enjoy it more this second time watching it. But yeah, this oddly enough, we covered this series a while back. It was our first binge-worthy episode was for The Prisoner, and just the whole espionage spy thing with him not knowing what's actually going on, and who's running things and all that. It gave me the Prisoner vibes to this, and there's some a really cool action set pieces. There's a big car chase thing that reminded me at times of the Matrix 2 movie with their big car chase in it. It also, like when they were performing the heist on the moving vehicles, it made me think of video games. It made me think of Grand Theft Auto 5, and then the movie, the end of the movie, the first time I saw it, it reminded me again of like a Call of Duty game at the end almost. With the weird sci-fi elements.
It has such incredible set pieces and really, really phenomenally filmed action sequences. Like there's the Key Opera House. There are just certain scenes and action scenes that this movie does so excellently. And it does it so excellently because Chris Nolan has his eye on it and he's showing you that. But other times I agree with you that the best way I think the modern audiences would understand this. And I don't mean the other modern audiences that I just mean normal, just modern sensibilities, which is about video games, right? So like this plays like a video game. I mean,
It does. It
it
does. It got that
it,
vibe
it
to it.
yeah, it has a disjointed vibe already, and typically video games have a disjointed vibe because you're playing them and you don't know what's coming next per se. And it kind of reads
A
like
lot of
that a little
times you
bit.
are playing as a nameless protagonist.
You
So,
are. You are. Yeah. Well, because it's you. Because you're supposed to put yourself in the video game, and it's supposed to be your like Cyberpunk, like Skyrim, like those are poor examples, but to a
Fallout,
certain
yeah.
degree, yeah. I mean, you can customize your character ish. Same thing for Mass Effect. I think kind of create your own protagonists a little bit, but there are hard boundaries around here because um our protagonist he isn't like lifeless or nameless. I mean, he is nameless, but he definitely has emotional. He
At
shows
times
up
a
at every
little
scene.
heartless.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, he shows up in every scene. I mean, he fills it out. It's just kind of like a different movie. I don't think that you could have had this movie with a Leonardo DiCaprio or a more one. I think an actor like John David Washington can do it, pull it off, and also doesn't have the ego to say, "Well, I have to have it." Well, I have to. There's a famous a controversy ish about Judge Dredd when Christopher or Sylvester Stallone did it. He didn't want to wear the helmet, so it ruined the movie, and it was already a different movie anyway. But it wasn't. It was just it all kind of just became its own feature. But
It's like
but
Mandalorian and the wacky Grogu. Yeah, he had to take off his helmet as well.
right.
Yeah. I
But
want my helmet off, but
yeah,
but yeah,
but
you kind of yeah. JD Washington, he sort of kind of fades into this. He becomes part of the movie as opposed to standing out. But you have a flashy the new Batman with a Batman director, but he's not Christopher Nolan's Batman. I was kind of having some fun little things. But you got Alfred, you got Nolan's Alfred, but someone else's Batman in a Nolan flick, but yeah, he tends
Robert
to
Patterson. Yeah, you're talking about Robert
mhm,
Patterson. Yeah.
absolutely. But yeah, Nolan likes to bring back people he's worked with previously in movies, which makes sense. You get people, especially this movie, because watching it, you appreciate all the backwards stuff. But and you're kind of thinking, oh well, how did they do all of that? And the fact that they were able to do all that, and Nolan's not a CG heavy guy. He's more practical. So a lot of that stuff it was there, really it's happening. So if it's backwards, they're performing it backwards and talking backwards. You get a little Twin Peaks Black Lodge vibes occasionally with all of that. But yeah, without the sci-fi element, this would have been a slick spy thriller, like you said earlier, 007. But the whole sci-fi thing kind of takes it to a new level, and I appreciated watching the documentary because they talked about how difficult it was, and the editor she said that it's one of those movies that challenges you. It is one of the most challenging, but one of the most fun and to make, and then also to watch. It does ask a lot of the viewer, and
It asks a lot of the viewer. It asks a lot, and in all fairness, it probably asks too much from the viewer. But to be fair,
but yeah, it just kind of it is what it is, and it doesn't apologize for it, but nor does it dumb it down to so you either so the movie, like you said, the first viewing can be kind of frustrating because with most movie experiences, you're not on your back foot. You're not playing catch up, much like the protagonist in this movie. Though you are playing catch up. You're trying to figure out what's going on, and all the people around the protagonist know a little bit more than they're letting on. And he finds that out, and as you do, and it's one of those movies where you could kind of do your head in, but you're just kind of treading water, trying to stay current with what's going on.
Yeah, I was
Much
going to
like the
say,
protagonist. Yeah.
yeah, John David J.D. Washington, as you said, I'm gonna steal that.
That's what they called him in the documentary.
Yeah, he does such a good job. He's also, when he starts out with rudimentary knowledge. You learn as he learns, which is good. And then as you learn more, and as he learns more, he's also a layman, right? So he's not coming at this like a gee whiz, nerd. He's just kind of trying to wrap his mind around it, and you can slowly see him understanding the game as the movie goes along, as his character develops in maturity and to where he's at. And God knows if we're following the original one or not. It's kind of already built in, because you do kind of go through the same line a few times. But when you go through that line, you're seeing the event from another perspective, and then when it snakes back around, you're seeing it from another perspective. And I think that when you watch this, if you give it a second crack, I think that's where it really can show you like what it is, what it's about, what it's trying to do. And then it's a little bit easier on you because it's coming forward, and you're like, okay, it's something about time, and there's something they won't shut up about the turnstiles, and they're constantly talking about the algorithm in the future and how there's danger and how we have to do things. That is all the really super important stuff that's happening way far off in the future, or it could be the next day. We don't know, but it's sometime between when this movie wraps up and the distant future. And I'm not going to really land in commentary on if it really completes itself or not, because that's not the point of the film. To be frank, the point of the film is to introduce this. You're seeing it from. It's almost like the subject matter is so complicated, and it is, to be fair, at least the version that Chris is trying to tell or display. It's so complicated. It's almost like cutting out all the complexity and then just going into this. And if you boil it down to that, you kind of understand that you don't need to know every super spectral, every little thing. That
Concept,
doesn't matter. What matters is on the ground and the people and what they're doing as they're doing it, which is this. You kind of come to understand that it is a complexity that is wrapped in simplicity that's given to you. That when you undo it, you're like, wait a second, what the hell? This is a lot more. There's more knots for me to there's more curiosity if you choose to be curious to pick at, and if you do pick at, you are rewarded, which is what I love. Anyway, long way to say that love to say that that it's basically about this pincer movement that they're doing that's key to the film, this temporal pincer movement. And that's not a spoiler at all. It's written all over, but it's essentially like three of those. Like you have one that you're seeing on the screen that is told to you. You're seeing another one happen on the screen that is the movie. And then you're seeing an even bigger one that you don't see at the end, which is presumably off screen, which is what the entire movie kind of serves in its universe. But I love the world building. I love that there's no exposition dump. I love that. I love all the key things that are there. It challenges you to stand up and watch this. But anyway, I'll pause there and I'll throw it back to you.
Even it's very much like a video game, because there's when he learns about the inverse with the gun, that's almost like a tutorial scene. And
it was a tutorial scene. They had a few of those. Yeah, go on.
One of the things I noticed on the documentary is they talk about how important script supervisor is important in any movie to let you know that day where the scene fits in with the script. But he was vitally essential in this movie because you've got this forward and backwards motion of the story, and people were genuinely confused at points where they are in the story. So he was very a very important person, and he was constantly being asked, so what's going on here. But yeah, and they have all these little miniatures of the sets and everything, and he even had like the composer there daily on the set to get the vibe, and he would talk to like the composer would talk to JD and get a sense of who he was, to so that he could tailored the soundtrack. And they did Nolan doesn't like using a temp score when originally putting together the film. He actually likes to have the actual music, so he worked on the music throughout the whole movie, which a lot of directors don't have that luxury. But when you're Christopher Nolan, you get a few things that you wouldn't normally get, like and he wanted he said that it's done. The movie before this was Dunkirk, and he said that was such a it's a big movie, but it's kind of centralized in one location pretty much, and told a tight little story. He wanted this one to get back to Inception, to get that like the bigger story with the globe spanning thing where he could go anywhere and go to these exotic locations. And I think they go, at one point they go to Mumbai, and they actually got to do a aerial shot, which hasn't really been permitted previously in Mumbai. But yeah, like I said, when you flash the Christopher Nolan card, I guess things things can happen. But yeah, it's you were talking about how you're kind of just dropped into the story, and that's can be quite jarring. And but I tend to like things that are like that, because I read a big fantasy epic 10-book series called The Book of the Fallen Malazan, and written by Stephen Erickson. It's a fantasy story, so you got all the accoutrement of a fantasy story. But it's very much kind of grounded. You spend a lot of the time with just everyday people, and even though you have this massive epic fantasy story going on, most times you're on the ground level with say a mercenary group that's just doing their job day to day, and they only hear rumors about what's going on as far as the epic story. And they may be stuck in the middle of this epic battle, but they don't have all the details, so the reader doesn't have all the details, and it just comes out as you go along, and you find out a piece it together, kind of piecemeal. You don't have like that a lot of fantasy stories gives you that first few pages that kind of outlines the whole fantasy series, and you don't get that. The instruction manuals kind of throw out, and that's very much like how this movie is. You don't get the instruction manual. You're just kind of dropped in, and much like the protagonist, you're finding out you're constantly playing catch up, which I like, because it keeps your mind interactive and involved in the story, as opposed to passively sitting back and downing handfuls of popcorn and, and just kind of turning off. You actually kind of have to turn on this one and follow it. And Nolan said that he wanted to do Inception, put his twist on a heist movie, and he wanted this to put his twist on a spy thriller, which I think it does quite well. It gives you, but yeah, it tells a engaging story with interesting characters, and much like that fantasy series I talked about, a lot of these big concepts and big ideas oftentimes boil down to humanity's frailties. They're one crazy guy's thought can impact the world. Just those human faults and failures can have massive effects on on the world stage. And then this movie really gets you into these huge concepts, but makes you, a lot of times you run the risk of losing the audience, or the concept being so cold and you're unable to wrap your head around, so it loses a sense of meaning. Whereas this story deals with a lot of very real human emotions, and a lot of times the protagonist is kind of a blank slate, but the characters around him are paying for the consequences of his actions, especially the Kat or Kate, the female of the story, is very much abused throughout the movie.
Oh yeah, awfully. Yeah. And I was gonna say too, this to kind of boil it down and kind of give the audience a shortcut to what this thing is. There's essentially all it boils down to is it's you're focusing on the runner, you're focusing on the action, and what's happening, and what direction the runner is running in, and what the hell does that mean, Mike? This isn't necessarily, this isn't like your standard time loop or time travel film. Like it does it like that's like where time travel treats it as a place you go. This isn't that at all. This is you arrive somewhere else, and the question goes like, what are you allowed to break when you or touch when this doesn't do that at all. There's just one simple rule in this, and that's the world line, which is every object in this film that is at play, whether it's the case or the algorithm or or Kat, played masterfully by Elizabeth Debicki, Debicki, excuse me. I'm horrible. I should have that pulled that off memory anyway. That
fine. She's not going to be on the podcast now. You screwed up her name. She just canceled.
Yeah. But that everything, every object that is important has an origin and a target, and it's the direction that it's traveling through time. So we think our perspective, things go forward only, but in Tenet, things can go forward and they can go backward. So it's just the motion of like where it goes to where it goes. So it's not where was it? It's where it's going. That is the only question that is answered or that is important when the film is going on, is where is it going? Whatever you're seeing, whatever version of the protagonist you're seeing, where is he going? Is he going this way or is he going that way? Because if he's depending upon, or is he, if he's, and a lot of times what I love about this too is it doesn't treat you with kid gloves. And it's that second, that third view that you realize that this is a very human movie. In other words, like everything that is known to happen is known to happen. There are no surprises in this. It's the surprise comes from the making of the surprise, so to speak, which is you get to see these characters take not one, not two, but 3, 4, maybe more swipes at the apple, so to speak. So when one thing doesn't go the way that they think that it goes, they note that, and then when the time and opportunity come up, they use it and they take advantage of it, and then that's where, and then you have a film. Then you have a really spectacular film of like, where are these characters going? And it's really, really fun because when they're going this way, at first you think, oh, well, I know why, because we just saw that one thing that happened a few scenes ago that kind of sets that up, like where we were just here. But in reality, it's not that, it's the other way. Anyway, it gets really, it can get really convoluted, especially like, so there's some parts that they're very static and you can understand them perfectly. You might not understand why you're seeing them, but that's kind of the gist of it is like the movie in itself, the question and the answer are all in the film. Like, I mean, it's a complete from end to end, which is why it and if you understand that conceptually, then it kind of, okay. Like then the palindrome, the Tenet where you spell it forward or backward, coming or going, it's still going. That's the point. I could get a lot more nerdy on the world line, but essentially, the things in the world line, even if they're inverted, they don't blow up or decompose or whatever. They just they have a natural timeline, And whenever they're or understanding how they got there, it's not the point. You just kind of, but when you do this, you understand that these are also objects that have been made to do that, which is where the intrigue comes in, which is where the algorithm is. So this is just not like something happened. It's people made something happen, and now people are reacting to that to get to it. And what the far end consequences are not irrelevant, but anyway, I'll pause there and see what your thoughts are.
Yeah, it's not your dad's Bill and Ted movie. It's you're not in a phone box going back in time. I like the fact that they don't blink and they're in 1950 Pleasantville, but you're actually if you want to go back, you actually have to physically walk back, and so you're taking time that way, and they it inspires a lot of discussion and thoughts, and say, okay, does this really work out? Does this totally make sense? And they were having those discussions as they were making the movie. They said that the crew would get together and start talking it out and going, oh, but does this make sense because this, and oh wait, no, there's that thing. And you kind of have to trust that Christopher Nolan and they have it all kind of worked out, because at times you're going, well, does that make sense? And then but then you go, okay, well, I can't find anything that would contradict that. So okay, but yeah, there's since you don't have all the information, you do get to kind of have fun with the concepts there, and if you, like I said, if you keep kind of double dipping, going back to fix things, how many versions of yourself is totally active at that time. And I guess you you have to move forward to get rid of those. You have to get past that time where they looped back, and it's just kind of a fun idea. And is there a limit to how many times you could kind of dip back? And if you dip back so many times, there could be a city full of you.
Right. Yeah,
at a certain point in time.
Yeah, they do have some rules. Like I mean, I'm flattening and simplifying it to compare to other properties, like which I'll bring back in here in a minute. From the Nolan perspective, because you could argue that he's tried this 3 or 4 times already. But the going back to this movie,
because Nolan has a real thing for time.
He does, and not just and not time itself. It's things that are wrapped around and involve time, but from wildly different perspectives and angles, and even settings and how to get there, which is just as fascinating as sometimes as the story itself. But for Tenet, those things, like if the inverted bullets or whatever, like where the bullet, instead of, like, normally you would load the gun, you would pull the trigger and the bullet will go out. Well, this is different because it's the opposite, and it comes back into the gun so it's like, okay, that's, whoa, what did I just see? And it's kind of like, just kind of treat that as an object, and then like that doesn't go away or disappear like in Back to the Future, because the rules are a little bit different, because these are already known facts. We're not disappearing anything. The bullet that was made 50 years ago, all of these things are still here, so they don't violate some kind of thing. Now they violate our understanding or our framework of this, but you have, and we covered logity, the loop. The rule that it runs on is, I would say, it's the loop closed before it opened. It's a man. He's watching his own death as a child. It's got, it's still in the right room for Tenet. I think 12 Monkeys is also pretty close to that. What happened. But that was played more as a tragedy of the thing of that. Interstellar is probably the closest cousin that you could get. Of course, it's Nolan's, but if you understand in Interstellar, it was just one man on both ends of his own message. Like when he goes to the black hole, the tesseract, or whatever we want to call it, that is a temporal pincer with a cast of one. So that's the same director solving the same problem. I think 6 years earlier, and it shows you Tenet is a third pass at this concept of time as Nolan wants to put a story around it. But in any way, I'll throw it back to you to see what your thoughts are and how well it does that or not. I mean, it just begs you to watch it a little bit more. Some of it, some of the plot and things, like if you get into it, you can get really bogged down by some of the, well, what does that mean? Like it doesn't, it answers most of these questions, but it also doesn't worry too much on the periphery about, well, was the world saved? If you want to know the answer to that, you're probably watching the wrong movie, or you're going to be very disappointed for what you get out of this. But shit, even Red Dwarf tackles.
But you do get a airplane through a building, that's pretty fun.
No, you did. Yeah. That 737. No CGI. It was cheaper to do that than do the computer stuff, I think, but at least at that time. But kudos to him for doing that too. Like that's another thing that I love about Nolan is you're never going to get tired or sick of his world building. Maybe you could probably make an argument that maybe some of the worlds maybe kind of sort of tend to maybe be similar-ish. I don't really get that, but I can see where somebody would cheapen, throw that out. But I was gonna say too, for that road, that really awesome kind of road heist, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, that thing. They had to close that highway down in Estonia. I think it was for like 3 weeks. So that's that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yep. Yeah. You have to flash your Nolan card for that one. Get that had to happen. Oh, but yeah, that's it's one of those movies that like I said in the intro, you can get out your whiteboard and try to map it all out. It gives a lot of the sci-fi nerds a lot of things to chew on and go, actually, but they did have a physicist that Nolan worked with to kind of, even though this is science fiction, there's a lot of science-based stuff that inspired it and kind of grounds it into a reality. This movie has that gravitas, at the realism that you get from a Nolan movie, to where even though these are kind of outlandish ideas and things, right, they make sense within the world, like you said, with the world building. And also they did a lot of they screen the dailies quite often because with this movie you going backwards or acting and doing motion backwards, it can't, if you do it incorrectly, it'll look goofy or funny, which have been played up to effects, with other movies. But obviously, you don't want it to look funny in this. So, but yeah, they had a lot of the stunt doubles and stunt actors. They they trained their fights and movements both frontwards and backwards. They could do it frontwards and backwards. And the challenge was when they brought on the actors, that it was they had instead of months to train, they had weeks. And they said that JD did quite well. One funny story about JD is they did do like there's a bungee scene where they get up to the top floor with a bungee, reverse bungee, and then go down with bungee. And when it came to time for the protagonist to say his couple of lines and then jump off the side of the building, and Nolan was trying to direct him, and he was like, okay. And you could tell that he wasn't really taking it all in. And they did it a few times, and he really just wasn't nailing the lines. And then Nolan realized he's scared shitless jumping off of the building. And JD's like, yeah, I wasn't there, man. I was freaking out. but it's one of those things where you just kind of have to get lost in the movie. And I will say that Kenneth Branagh, I was really impressed with his acting, because I didn't realize it was him until
Me
halfway
either.
through the movie
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
he
Originally. Yeah.
becomes he becomes that character, and you just don't see Kenneth Branagh, or at least I didn't, until like, oh wait, I know that guy. And because he is that Russian, evil Russian business guy. He becomes that guy. And so yeah, you really don't. And you got a moment with Michael Caine, but he's always Michael Caine, so he's he's not going to get lost in his character. But yeah, it was nice seeing him in the scene that he's in. But yeah, quality acting all the way around. Robert Pattinson continues to impress. He's not just a pretty boy. He's got some chops. But yeah, I enjoyed this. Just just so you know that we're not all just sniffing Nolan's farts. There is some things that I'm not being original here. A lot of people have made the same commentary about Nolan's movies, but the sound mix on it. I had to watch this movie with subtitles because you had the super loud explosions and the dialogue is very soft spoken.
Just like a video game. Just like a video. It's also very synth heavy. To this is kind of, it has a very disconcerting, like cyberpunk. I don't know, it's ish kind of like, I don't mean cyberpunk the genre. I just mean the way it sounds. It's just like discordant, and it's made to kind of like keep you kind of on your toes a little bit, or uncomfortable, and not get too comfortable when it does. But it is overwhelming, and some anyway, go ahead.
Oh, the other thing is, I guess the female character in this, and then the protagonist. I guess it was kind of confusing. At times you think maybe there's a romantic interest between the two of them, but it just never gets there, and you never buy the relationship completely. I don't know if that was intentional or unintentional, or they wanted you to feel a certain way and it just didn't come across. But yeah, that was very confusing. Even on a second viewing, you really don't get a sense of, and I think it's also by design that you don't get a real sense of the protagonist and where his head's at, because he's confused during most of the movie, like you are. So maybe it's intentional that you never get fully into his head, but the human interactions that he has are kind of stilted and not fully formed. And by the end of the movie, you do get a sense of who he is and who he's become. And I was almost more interested in that character at the end as opposed to what you got beforehand.
Right, because you have to see him earn that, and you can and you see him earn that because you see where
you see the process.
he's going.
Yeah.
That's the key to the movie. It doesn't matter that this guy or that. It matters for who the 2 or 3 people who are really important to the plot, to the story that we focus on. We spend so much time with. You do have a kind of question like, okay, I get the woman, Elizabeth, the Debicki. She is Kat. She, her and her son. They're obviously to this madman who is our central antagonist, who sets all these things into motion, who is an agent of the future of some kind for some reason, for whatever. And then you see this, and you get that weight there, but then there is a missing bridge. There is a little bit more of a gap, quite a bit of a gap, that it's not really big enough for you to jump over. It's too far in between for them to have a romantic interest per se. And then so you kind of go to the next one, which is like, well, maybe the kid is important, but then they don't really do anything with the kid either, aside from like it's important to the mom, to the mom, and it's also important to the antagonist too. Very important to him. So that's where the importance there comes from. So there's like zilch over here. So it's implied that there's also this very deep bond between him and the Patterson character Neil, I believe. again, you come at them, you kind of you understand the importance of the important scene, like when it gets there, but that's further on in the movie after you see the going, like whereas earlier on, I agree, I will echo that, like where it's kind of like there's weight here, and the camera gives it weight, and the music, everything around it gives it weight, but not our protagonist, and it's kind of like.
Mhm.
That I think that was made by design because, if there would have been more, then we would have perked up and would have been, oh, there's a clue here, but it's
Mhm.
not that kind of a movie. It's not that
Right.
it doesn't take that order. It only gets important by the time you get over the middle part of it. And then it really gets there in the three quarters. So it does ratchet it
Mhm.
up and get there really quick, when it does, for you, but it's also an investment. The thing is, every scene in this movie, Sean, is part of my language. It's fucking gorgeous. I mean, it's just, it's almost, and this might be perceived as insulting to Christopher Nolan, but and I don't
Mhm.
mean it to be, but like it's shot so well and so beautifully. You almost want to it's almost like what you would want to put up on a TV or a bunch of TVs to sell them, to to show, look at this pretty picture that this TV can produce. Kind of joking around a little bit with that, but it does absolutely beautiful scenes,
Yeah.
and it draws you in. But I do think that because they're so big and so wide, I do think it kind of drowns out the main characters, and it also doesn't help that we don't have anything to hang on him other than like he's a great runner and he's trying to do something important, and we're also in the journey with him.
He's trying to
But
save the world, man.
well, it also kind of came out at a time like when there was a lot of big empty spaces out in the real world. Um, and
Mhm.
movies that kind of ape that a little bit don't quite, that they
Mhm.
kind of slip past the
Yeah.
they can, but not for nothing. This movie would have absolutely made. I don't think it would have made a billion. Like the Odyssey
Yeah,
has,
it
but
would probably done the numbers of
that would have.
Oppenheimer.
Yeah, it
Um,
would have. Yeah, it would have
yeah,
absolutely made its money back 2 or 3 or 4 times for sure. But
yeah,
but domestically, this could only gross 60 million.
yeah. And
So
then
and world.
there was that phenomena of Barbenheimer.
Oh, that was too. Yeah, that
Yeah,
drove that too. Yeah, and there's
yeah.
also that was also which also probably strange enough is the inverse of like where this movie was at and how it was received.
Mhm.
Whereas they nailed it, they nailed it right, and they're like, we got something going on here, and somebody was smart enough to put them together and make it even bigger, um,
Mhm.
even
Yeah,
bigger. But
yeah, and was there ever talk about a sequel, or was this always a one and done? I know that Nolan's uh, um, relationship with Warner Bros got challenged and broken apart because of how they handled the movie and the release of it. But yeah, I was kind of curious. Because
I don't
this
think
movie
so.
kind of begs for a sequel. Yeah, the movie's kind of like a prequel and a sequel all in and of itself, just by the nature of it. And what you speculate by what's said at the end of the movie. But yeah, it almost kind of begs for a sequel.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think that the answer is kind of lies in the other DNA of other Chris Nolan films, with one exception. That's
Mhm.
very big. But
Mhm.
typically, his original concept that comes from him do not have follow ups. They're just self contained, completed stories, and they don't, they don't, didn't
Well,
really do that.
he did do Batman sequels, so you do
Yeah,
know.
right. But those were his original, right?
Right.
His original content. But I do believe that John David Washington he's voiced enthusiasm for exploring the Tenet universe further. But I think he noted
Mhm.
that any follow up was like strictly him just talking and not anything concrete
Mhm.
whatsoever. So
Right.
and you had mentioned that there is a little bit of bad, I wouldn't say bad blood or per se, but um it
There's no longer a working relationship between
it's
Nolan
a different
and Warner Bros.
Now, does that mean that if Chris Nolan had an idea and every other studio but Warner Brothers said no to it, does that mean that Warner Brothers would say no to it? No, they would probably say yes. They're not dumb. They're not dumb. They would at least take his meeting. I have no doubt, because when you're Chris Nolan, you operate on a whole different world of existence than
you flashed the Nolan card.
I was gonna say too. We did. We kind of, strange enough, we mirrored. We don't really cover. We don't really. Our bag isn't really covering current movies out in the theater. I mean, if they cover our purview and we want to cover them, we'll cover them. But we don't really weekly. Nobody comes here to know the latest details on the whatever. But with that being said, that there is, what this Sci-Fi Bliss does open us up to, maybe exploring some things that are interesting. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Tom wants to do. And I could talk about this film for hours. There's just so much to dissect. I'm not going to put Tom through the ringer like that for that. But I will say that the debate for this film, because this film is like one of these things that, do you think that that this film is a feel it film, or a follow it for you, or did it come across as too much of a cold machine for you, or was there something? Because I can see, like, where there is that distance puts a little bit of the, just maybe it's not as piping hot at the action as the action that we're led to believe in this. I don't know where you fall on this as far as it goes.
Well, as the kids say now, it definitely has a vibe to it. There's it's a vibe movie. You have to match that vibe and kind of dig into it to really go with it and appreciate it. It's one of those movies that you could appreciate on a technical level. It's quite good. He's got some professionals there that every one of them kind of knows what they're doing, and they said that the first few days on filming, especially as the backwards stuff, was a real test, and they made a lot of mistakes those first few days, but that's they did that hallway fight scene, the first, which gives you it's more of a smaller set piece to kind of break your teeth and kind of understand how it all kind of works together. And but yeah, it's you kind of have to, there's not like a skill set that immediately makes you good at what this movie is doing, so they really had to kind of train and and develop the skills. And that's that's the fun of movie making, is that especially like the horror movies that we watched last month, a lot of the special effects and gore effects were brand new, and they were coming up with the ideas on the fly, and they had the vision, they knew what they wanted, but they didn't know how to get there, and they had to invent ways of getting there. And this movie has a lot of stuff that you have never seen before because it's never been done before, and including the locations that they shot at, and it's a feast for the eyes. Sometimes that all of that stuff can kind of overwhelm, but that's why you get these good actors that know how to act and and kind of overcome they don't get swallowed by all the set pieces. They kind of redefine and put their mark on it as well. So kudos. It's a quite entertaining movie. Is it the best movie I've ever seen? No, but it's you definitely have seen something by the end of it that you haven't seen before, and it's got you speculating and questioning things. And I think those are those movies that leave you with questions often stay with you longer, because they stay with you because they're not wrapped up in a neat little bow. A lot of movies that are kind of disposable, the ones that tell a very understandable story in a way that's pretty obvious. Those movies can be fun, but they never stick with you. This movie is going to stick with you and have you asking questions days later. It's definitely one that the 4K again is readily available by the Warner Bros. You can probably get it on Groove.com
Right.
if you don't want to throw shekels at Amazon.
Yeah.
Groove.com's they're always doing sales. I think they're doing Crazy Day sales, which if I'm not mistaken, Tenet is part of. I think you get
Right.
three 4K movies for $39, so about $13 a piece. So that one you can probably pick up a couple of other Nolan movies along with that. I think Inception's in that too. But
Excellent. Excellent.
but yeah,
Yeah.
always got to push for the physical media.
Excellent. Yeah, no, I think to wrap this one up, and we didn't really kind of go into or do justice, and it's kind of immaterial, but the emotion we kind of touched on that, and is this a cold machine or is it got feeling? And I think that you get that because I think that some of it is lost in translation because you see all that emotion and the way it all kind of comes at the end. I mean, you earn it there, so it is earned there, but to get there, it asks a lot. And I think that kind of going back to what you were saying about criticizing Nolan, and the thing is like I think that it is fair, and I've mentioned this a little bit too, and you've mentioned it, like where you I think sometimes Nolan he prioritizes the texture over legibility. And I think that this is one of the films like where that preference really costs him something, like where it was just kind of a slip. And it's not, that's not bad, and it's not good
it's
either. It's
it's
just
one
how
of
he
the
does things.
right. It's of the Nolan movies. This is the Nolanist movie, if that
Yeah,
makes
again,
sense. But
yeah,
yeah. If you you know if you like a Nolan movie or not. So if
right.
you're a Nolan fan, you're definitely gonna dig it and get a lot out of it. But if you're not a Nolan fan, the buyer beware. Probably stay away from this one.
Yeah, and there is a lot of emphasis put on Cat too. And one of the things, and I skipped over, and I just want to kind of go back real quick and just kind of paint in some of the details, like that she wants her son. She has the obstacle because she forged her this thing, the signature, uh, uh, for her husband. So that's been held over her head. That's if you watch the film, you know what that is. But and then there was a cost to this. That she got hit by that inverted bullet, and that's supposed to be extra dangerous aside from being shot. Which, and then ultimately she has the choice, and we're at the very end of this, and we've gone on for quite a bit of time, and we're going to wrap it up. But the spoiler is that that she decided on her terms what, when, and where, and how, and then you get the movie you get. But in any case, it's a good complete. I really loved it. I loved it when no one kind of doing it, let him go and do his thing, and maybe it'll lose a few people, and that's okay. But this one was really fun, and I this one was only on top of the mind because me and my son recently watched it, and I think it was his second or third time that he saw it, and he could kind of understand it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because I remember putting it on for them, and they were just like, nope. Love you. He loved Oppenheimer, and my daughter loved Interstellar, and so they are mini little. They're, whether they know it or not, they're set out to be little mini Nolan fans, and I know we're on deck to see the Odyssey. But we just haven't got around to it, but some to do. But anyway, I really enjoyed it, and I think we're coming up to the caboose here, and this is a strong recommend on my end. And I just say go watch it the first time. If it is the first time, you're gonna be like, what is this thing? But just bear with it, and then kind of go back through, and if you pick it up a second, third time, that's where it really shines. On, like, this is just one of those Nolan films that it's just really really dense, and it takes a minute to get through. So, but I think that's it. Do you have anything else to add, or if we missed anything?
No, I think this is a good pick for Sci-Fi Bliss. It gives a lot of polish and shine on this month. I'll see if I can grunge it up a little bit and maybe do a dip back into the 80s. I know it was very 80s heavy with our slasher movies. For some reason, I just can't get out of the 80s. I don't know what it is.
Oh, it's a great decade. Great, well,
Yep.
great decade. Great before decade. Great after decade too.
Mhm.
So
All right. Yep. So yeah. We'll toss it back to the audience. If you wanted to go in on a weekend and watch all your favorite sci-fi movies and get that sci-fi bliss, what sci-fi movie would you throw on? And while you're doing that, you've hung in here for the long haul. You might just like us, so give us a like, give us a subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications, because YouTube's not always very good with letting you know when videos come out that you like. So yeah,
absolutely.
there's
I've been Mike.
I'm Tom. Zip, 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 zap, zip.